All right, so hopefully you have this code all working. That's the intent. That's what hopefully you are following along. You built this code. So what I want to do is I want to show you that there is redundant code inside of here. Length is equal to 0, length is equal to 0. If I don't care about this error message, then I don't necessarily have to have this second one. I could take this one out and what is your name? What is your name? What is your name? Okay, I could probably figure out T, put something in there, and then I'll continue on. And so there are ways around that. That that's okay, but often it's useful to have other things going on after it. So I'm going to put that back inside of here. I want to show you another little trick on the loop here. So I can get rid of this name here and say while true. Now, if I do this, this code will run forever. It will not stop running. And so I'm going to run it just to show you what's going on here. This is your name. Oh, I'm sorry. You must provide one character. You must provide one character. It's doing what we saw before. Now I put that in. Ooh, wait. It's not jumping out of here. Because I said while true. True is true, and true is always true, and true will ever not be true. Well, that's a bad bit of code. So what I just did right there is I hit Control C. And you see what it said right here? Keyboard interrupt. So that's the way to stop a never-ending loop. And you might build a never-ending loop on accident. You might not type in the code while true. You might put in some logic that you think is valid. But if it's not, and it puts itself in a never-ending loop, then you have to kill it in some way. So that's one way to make that happen. So if length is equal to 0, you must provide a name of at least one character. If it's not, else, then what I can do is a command called break. And so what break does is it's the same thing as Control C. It stops this loop. The break will stop an infinite loop. It'll stop a loop that might break eventually. So this is another pattern in looping. There are some computer science theorists that say breaks are bad. You shouldn't use breaks. It's confusing logic. You should exit things naturally. I don't always think that's true. I don't think you should use breaks willy-nilly. But if the break is the easier logic to figure out, rather than having redundant code or hard to figure out code, then it's okay. I mean, in this case, it's pretty straightforward. It's going to loop forever, and you're either going to give me something that's not valid, or I'm going to break. So that works perfectly fine. So let's run this one now. What's my name? Oops. When I hit enter, it was repeating the last thing. So nothing, 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 nothing. I can put a bunch of space characters, by the way. I'm not getting rid of every input that might not be useful, but at least I can go through and say, hey, I've got something, and my code won't break. Now it says blank, your BMI is, so not ideal, but at least it's required. At least my code doesn't blow up. It doesn't crash. It doesn't, whatever term you want to use. By the way, when I worked on the airplane project, we weren't allowed to use the term my software crashed. Because airplanes don't crash. Their software never crashes, even if it doesn't crash the airplane. We use the term tilt because it would restart automatically on an airplane. And in real-time embedded systems, if software goes bad, it just restarts automatically because you don't want your airplane to shut off. It's not Windows. You get a blue screen of death, everything stops. You want it to automatically restart and come back up as soon as you can. But crash is a typical term for a program. Fail, blue screen of death, all sorts of meanings inside of there. But now you have some idea of another way of getting this done. So it doesn't answer all of our validation needs, but it does start to answer some of them. And so we have to figure out, well, what do I do with white space? If I just put in white space, I want you to type something instead of there. So how do I sort that out? There's other aspects to come up because look at the next thing we got. It is not just going to be required. We also need it to be a number, and we are turning it to a number. But if I run this, I give it a name. I just gave it name 54, and I put nothing inside there. It blows up. It is expecting text and a number, and it didn't find it, and so the program dies. All right. So again, play with this a little bit. And then what I want you to do, before I show you how to do it, I want you to practice looking stuff up. I want you to go off and take your favorite search engine and do a search of input validation Python required, or find blank characters in Python required, or whatever. And I'll show you the search that I did. So it's a little bit of a different mix. I mean, I'm not saying you have to go understand all of this thing yourself, but at some point, one of the skills you have to develop is how do I find information about programming languages when it's not readily available? If it's not immediately told me in a book, or do I want to go search through it on a book, then how do I find it on my own? So I want to compare your search results for mine. So right now, I'm going to stop this video. You build this code, get it all working, and then do a little search on that, and we'll compare the results.